Yeah, that took a minute to get going, but I think we're live now. I think everything is working. So let's jump into it. We'll get the disclaimers out of the way and we'll get right to answering some chats that come in. So this is a weekly live broadcast, generally every week, Thursdays, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am. And I do my best to respond. I don't have a topic planned out, but I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during the live broadcast. So if you have questions or something that I haven't responded to in the comments, because I haven't been good about doing that lately, then this is a good place to get that answered. And if I can't answer it, usually there's somebody in the chat that can answer it. So it's a great place to get your questions answered if you have them. The only things I ask, I mean, we'll talk about whatever you want, but the only things I ask is be polite, keep it family friendly, don't start cussing at us, calling anybody names or being hateful or anything like that. We can have a difference of opinion. We can have a good debate. Always like a good debate, but we don't have to be rude and hateful about it. So let's jump into it. We got Ed here. Ed got bait. Good to see you. He says, hey, Chris, I see the weather in your area has been crazy, but glad to see you're all safe. I'm sorry to say I won't be able to see you at Quail and Homesteading Con this year. My health won't let me. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, as far as the storms go, I mean, it's not been terrible. It's been day after day after day. There's storms popping up, but they really haven't been that bad for us. The worst of it's kind of gone around us, I think, and it's just, every day there's tornado watches, but it never really has materialized. We got more coming this weekend. So, hopefully make it through that just fine too. Good thing is I haven't had to water anything. I mean, everything's growing. I haven't had to water it. I did have cucumbers and cantaloupe started those. I don't usually grow cantaloupe, but we kind of cut back on what we're growing this year. I decided not to do green beans, so I had some space. I was like, let's throw a couple of cantaloupe in. And they all came up, and then the rabbit came and, wild rabbits came and ate them all the tops off of all of them. I had to replant. They haven't come up yet. But man, I'm sorry to hear that your health is not doing well. I'll pray for you. And sorry you're not gonna be able to make it to Quail Con or Quail and Homesteading Con. It's harder to say for me for some reason. I was looking forward to seeing you there, but hopefully next year maybe it'll be better. Hang in there, man. We'll be praying for you. Don says, I'm sorry, Ed, that you won't be able to go this year. I can't go either. We can enjoy videos from home this year. Yeah, well, I'm sorry you won't be able to make it either. That's too bad. I'd like to see everybody there, but hopefully nothing terrible is keeping you from going. There's Chester Hickman. Good to see you. TM, hello to you. Let's see. Don from, well, we already said hi to Don, but that's okay. Says, good evening from South Central Illinois. Good to see you. You guys have had some pretty rough weather up there too. No, that was Idaho, wasn't it, where the tornado hit? I can't remember, honestly. I'm sure you've had your share of rough weather, but here's Buck Reynolds. Good to see you, Buck. Verna's here, says fifth like. And good to see you all here tonight. She says, I'm a little worried about Lucy tonight. Uh-oh. What's going on there? Says, she's been laying at the door, and the last 2 times I wanted to take her out for a walk, she has barely lifted her head. Oh, that doesn't sound good. I'm sorry to hear that. It's always a little scary when the dogs are not feeling well because they can't tell you exactly what's wrong. You don't know. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully she just, gets right back up with it. So Don says, wow, there's Bob Cole says, howdy folks. Good to see you, Bob. But Don says, wow, the reverb in headsets is weird. I think that's supposed to be weird. What's the, I use headset all the time, when I'm watching videos and stuff. So is it something on my end that's causing that issue, I wonder? Or is it, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. You guys can tell me if you have any sound problems or anything. Where are we at here? Tracy Evans, hard last name. Good to see you. Says hello to everybody. Thank you. I assume everybody just says hello. So thank you for joining us. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Bob Cole says, sorry to hear about Lucy. Did she eat something she shouldn't have? Yeah, that's always your first thought, isn't it? Hopefully that's all it is, and it passes and she's fine. Joe Sandy says, I totally understand health issues. Yeah, we've all had them, haven't we? Well, maybe not everybody, and mine have not been that bad, so I can't really complain. But yeah, I get it. Hang in there. Hopefully it gets better soon. Silver Creek's Wildlife saying hi to Verna. And Verna says, I don't know, Bob, after the live stream, I'll make her get up. You don't have to be here if you don't need to, Verna. Go take care of your dog if you need to. It's perfectly all right. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. So Don says, hey, Vern, I had to refresh. I had wild reverb. It was spooky funny. Weird. Andy from Southwest Michigan says, hope everybody is doing well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. And there's Tony from Toronto. Good to see you. I scrolled too far. Let's see where we're at here. Bob says, put 24 in lockdown this morning. Humidity crept up to 56, so I added some in the bottom reservoir. Added some water, I'm assuming, in the bottom reservoir. You said humidity crept up to 56, so that seems kind of backwards. It should be going down to 56, maybe. I don't know. I usually, even in the summertime, sometimes I'll dry hatch in the summer because our humidity is high enough. I don't have to worry about it too much. But I do usually, even then, add some water during lockdown to bump it up just a little bit more because, even in the summertime, we're usually only like 60%, 65% in the house with the air conditioner running. So is there, like, what's going on here? I see these talks about, like Verna saying, I don't know, Don, this is strange for sure, too. Is there something going on with the sound? Is the sound not right? We'll see if somebody else can respond. Steve says, good to get to watch you live. I'm from Louisiana and just started. My garden's not doing well due to the rain, but my jumbo browns are doing well at 2 weeks old. Well, nice. I mean, sorry, your garden's not doing well. You got time to restart if you need to, though. I mean, it's early in the season. So if anything gets washed out, then, you got time. Like I said, you can restart a lot of things. Hang in there, man. Hopefully it gets better. And thanks for making the live. I appreciate it. Don says, Chris, I'm having knee surgery. I can't go until I get 2 new knees. LOL. Oh, you're having knee surgery, and that's why you're not going to be able to make it to the Quail homesteading convention. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, maybe that's a good thing. You're getting knee surgery because you need knee surgery, and they've come a long way with that stuff. So hopefully it's a quick recovery. Johnny Griffin from North Carolina. Good to see you. Warchild's here. Good to see you too. David says, hey, from McAllister Quail Trail. Prayers for the folks in Iowa. Yeah, I heard Iowa got hit pretty hard, didn't they? And then Peggy says, just getting started again with quail. Thanks for all the teaching. I have rabbits too. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. Don said, Chris, I had 2 of your videos open playing a second off of each other. LOL. I closed one and refreshed the one. Oh, so that's what it was, huh? Yeah. I can't imagine hearing me twice. I mean, hearing me once is bad enough. You have to hear me twice. It's got to be rough. Joe Sandy says, we were without power at the moment. Oh, no, that sucks. We haven't turned our air conditioner on yet, so it's kind of warm in the house, but it's not that bad. I think it's only like 80 degrees today. So in the house, it's probably, well, here, I got a thermometer right here. I'll tell you. Yeah. It's 83 in this room and 65% humidity. So it's a little humid. I'm sweating a little bit. You may see me kind of do this, but it's not that bad. I need to move a fan in here because the ceiling fan in here doesn't work very well. I need to replace it and move some air around at least, because that's the worst part. It's just still, but that's my own doing. Haven't turned the air conditioner on. It's been kind of getting down in, the low 70s, high 60s at night. So that's not too bad. We work all day, so we're not here. So it's really not been that big a deal. Jacob Wolf says, sorry, I'm late. I just got in from breeding my rabbits. I got 3 good fall offs in 15 minutes. I'll rebreed tomorrow just to make sure. I already bred my first doe on Monday and Tuesday. Well, that's a good reason to be late. Congratulations on successful breeding. I'm sure you're going to have baby rabbits before long. 30 days, I guess. So glad to hear it. Verna says, Chris, if she wanted to go out, she would have got up. This is very unusual for her. Yeah, I understand. I've had dogs, get sick before. Sometimes it's a serious thing and sometimes it's not. So I'm hoping that it's not a serious thing and, she just gets over it. Who knows? I mean, dogs get little illnesses just like we do too. And, but when they're mopey and it's not good, it always makes you, you don't know what to do, right? So hopefully it's, like I said, hopefully it's just short-lived and she rebounds real quick. Jacob Wolf says, my buck got a break yesterday and we'll get another break Saturday and then to breed my last doe Sunday and Monday. Well, it sounds like you got a good plan. You're going to have a bunch of rabbits here before long. David Lister says, we shrunk wrap our first rabbit yesterday, 4 to follow soon. I have to keep up with Chris. There you go. Everybody's telling me my sound is fine. Yeah, I think we figured out what was going on there. But yeah, you got to keep up with me. I got 4 in the fridge right now that I'll probably, maybe tomorrow evening when I get home from work, I'll get them in the freezer, get them vacuum sealed probably and in the freezer. Buck Reynolds says it's coming and going here, talking about the sound. Maybe I need to move closer to the microphone. Probably should invest in a new microphone. I think I talk loud enough, but it's not the best microphone. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, I've got a 7-inch scratch on my forearm from catching my male guinea fowl by hand after it flew the coop. Between that and his screeches, he's going to the soup pot tomorrow. Yeah, I've heard bad things about guineas. I've been around them a little bit, but not a lot. But yeah, from what I understand, they are super noisy. Tracy Evans says, I just started my quail business up again, 120 eggs a day, 17 only, 2 hatched so far, 60 Celadon, 60 mixed, only the Celadon hatched. Okay, so let's see. On day 17, you got 2 that hatched on day 17. That's actually a little bit on the early side, so that's not necessarily bad news. You still got a long time. You got days before you have to worry about them not being hatched. You probably know this. You say you're starting back up again. You've been there before. Yeah, most of the time they're hatching out day 18, 19, 20, right around in there. The bulk of them right around day 18 or 19. So your incubator may be running just a little bit warm if you got a couple that hatched out a little bit earlier than that. But see how the rest of the hatch goes first and go from there. Good luck with it. I hope it goes well. Jay says, will roosters be primary influenced on chick color if you are trying to get a mixture of coloring? Okay, what? Will roosters be the primary influence on chick colors? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that one, the hen versus the rooster really makes a difference. I think it's my limited kind of knowledge of genetics. It really has to do more with what genes are in each bird. Some genes are more dominant than other genes, and those are the coloring genes too. I mean, the genes that determine what color the bird's going to be. Some of those are more dominant. Usually the dark brown, like the wild color, I think would be the more dominant gene because, that's the normal natural coloring. The other colorings are basically mutations. So, I don't know that I can really give you a good explanation for that, but I don't think it has anything to do with it being the rooster or the hen. It's just what genes they're carrying with them. So, if you had, I couldn't tell you which genes are actually more dominant for sure. That's just my kind of educated guess, I guess. But anyway, so if you have, this is kind of simplified, but this kind of gives you an idea. So you have a hen with a dominant gene. Let's say it's white. White won't be black. Let's say it's black coloring is the dominant gene that the hen is carrying, and then she's got a recessive gene for white. Well, she's going to look like a black hen because she has a dominant gene for that black coloring. And then let's say your rooster, he's also black, but he carries a recessive gene for the white. If you breed them together, you should get roughly a quarter of their offspring that would be white, and the rest of them would be all black. Some of those would carry a recessive trait. Some of those wouldn't. So because, you basically take one gene from each, and that's what creates, the offspring get those 2 genes. So if they both, if the offspring got both white genes, they would be white. Otherwise, they're going to be black. So a quarter of them would get a black gene from the female, a white gene from the male. And this is not perfect science. I'm just saying roughly a quarter, and they would be black, but carry a white recessive trait. But some of those would get a black gene from the mother and a black gene from the father, and they would be black and no recessive trait. So anyway, hopefully that kind of makes sense. Not probably the best one to talk through genetics. It's not necessarily my expertise, but that's the way from my limited knowledge of, genetics, that's kind of the way I understand it. Joe Sandy says, Chris, why do some people, you, Living Traditions, others, say they can't show an actual dispatch, but others like Terry and more actually show it and don't get shut down by YouTube? Well, I've shown it before, and I've had my videos flagged, and they get marked as adult content, and I just avoid it because it's something that they frown on, they don't like. So I just avoid showing it because, it is kind of against policies in a sense. But that's all based on when people report you. So I mean, and I'm saying don't go out and report these people for doing that. You know, but YouTube doesn't really do a good job. Like they don't necessarily police this. They allow other people to report it. So like my video where I dispatched a rabbit and showed how to do it and showed the dispatching process and everything. For a long time, it was fine. And then suddenly somebody reported it to YouTube and then they flagged it and they marked it as adult content, which is not the end of the world, but I figure I just don't show it because of that. Ed says, what's the best way to mix quail hens of different hatches? When they're young, if you mix them together before they hit about 3-4 weeks old, you have a really good chance of them all just getting along, no problems. And you can mix young birds with old birds at that point. But once they get past about 3 weeks, start getting to 4 to 5 weeks old, right around in there, well, then they're starting to get sexually mature and they're starting to be seen as an invading on the territory. I've had really good luck though, mixing them in when they're 2-3 weeks old, right around in there, and just throw them in with the adult birds, and they seem to flock, mix right in with the flock, no problems. So that's really the best way to do it. If they're already adults, put them in neutral territory, try to have kind of even numbers of each one, and put them in a cage that none of them have been in before. So it's all new territory to all of them. And you might have some good luck that way too. Verna says, I have 9 rabbits to process next week. Yeah, I've got 2 more that are growing out, but they're going to be a couple of weeks away. We got chickens. They're ready to process probably next weekend. So I'll try to get some video of that too. Billy Glass says, hey, Chris, how long should I keep the heat light on the baby quail? 2 weeks old Sunday. You're probably good. I mean, once they start feathering out, or let me back up. So what I do is it really depends on your temperatures. I keep the heat lamp on them at about 100 degrees for about the first couple of days, 3 days maybe, and then I'll drop it down to about 95 degrees, and I'll let that go for a day or two. Watch your birds. If they are all huddled up under the heat lamp, they're a little cold. If they're all just kind of spread out and mingled all over the place, then they're perfectly fine, and I drop it down another couple of degrees, 5 degrees. So I usually have it down by 90 degrees by the time they're about a week old. And then by the time they're about 14 days, they're getting close to 2 weeks old. I've usually got them down to about 85 degrees. They're fully feathered out. And then I start getting a little bit more aggressive with it and start dropping it about every day, every other day, and just watch your birds about 5 degrees at a time. And whenever you start hitting like what the ambient temperature outside is, you get down to about 70 degrees. Usually you can just remove the heat lamp at that point and they're going to be fine. So hopefully that kind of answers it. But you're looking usually by the end of about 2 weeks, especially in the summertime when the nighttime temperatures aren't getting down below like 70, 60, 65 at the lowest. I've usually got the heat lamp off of them completely by 2 weeks old, and they're going out to the outside hutch. Josie Andy says, I ate my first 2 quail today from butchering on Saturday. Oh my goodness, they were delicious. Now I won't be disappointed if I hatch roosters in the future. Yeah, most people like quail. It is good. It's a little bit lean, so sometimes it can be a little bit on the tough side, but it is tasty. To me, I always hesitate to tell people this because to me it has kind of a minerally kind of taste to it, kind of like liver. Reminds me of that a little bit. It's not nearly as strong. It's milder than that, of course. But I don't tell people that because most people are like, ooh, it tastes like liver. I don't want to try it, but almost everybody likes it. So Bob says, my humidity is 11 right now. I did 30% for 14 days. Wanted to raise it to 65% for lockdown. Yeah, that sounds about right. My humidity very seldom is in 30%. It's usually closer to like 50 or so, but I try to bump it up to really close to 70% if I can get it there during lockdown. Scrap says, Chris, blessed be the peacekeepers and the podcasters, for they shall inherit the earth. Well, I doubt the podcasters necessarily, but yeah, you're on the right track. Blessed be the peacekeepers. Joe Sandy says, plus dispatching went well, and I was so nervous first time. First time's always tricky, but like I always say this, just try to disconnect from it. Try to be kind of like autopilot. Don't overthink it. Once you do it once or twice, it gets much easier in a way. I mean, it never should be super easy. You're taking the life of an animal and, there's a reason behind it. There's a purpose. You don't need to feel guilty about it. But at the same time, it shouldn't be something that's super pleasurable to do. That's my thoughts on it anyway. Dawn says, Chris does have a dispatch video. Yeah, I did post a video a long time ago My first dispatching video showed how to process a rabbit, and I mean, I showed the dispatching and everything, but like I said, it got flagged and marked as adult content. TM says, "Are your chickens growing good?" Yeah, they're doing real well. I mean, they're a little crowded in there now because there's 40 of them in that chicken tractor, and there really should probably only be about 25. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be at this point, but they are. I mean, I'm moving them twice a day, moving them at night, moving them in the morning. When I get home from work in the evening, when I go to take their food away from them about 6 o'clock at night, I move the tractor, give them fresh grass because they are making a mess, a huge mess. I mean, there's 40 of them in there, and they're a little bit too many. Some of them are a little bit on the dirty side. Not bad. It's okay. Haven't lost any right now, but they are pretty much ready to process. So we'll be doing that probably next weekend. Bob Cole says, "Just looked again. Humidity is at 9% now." Yeah, give it some time. If you just moved them into lockdown, you had that thing open. I mean, if you put water in there, it's going to bounce back. Don't stress about it. It just takes a little while for the humidity to bounce back. 9 is pretty low, but it's probably not. I mean, if you've got water in there, it's going to come back. Don't worry about it. Jacob says, "Has anyone else experienced that when you breed all your does close together, that the other seems to lift? My second doe was stubborn before, but it seems that seeing my first doe get bred has put her in," I'm guessing you're going to say in the mood. Yep, in the mood, and she lifted the first time this time. I don't know that I've ever noticed that, but good to hear you got it fixed. I mean, I don't know that I've ever noticed. I'm not so sure that I've ever really paid much attention to breeding both my does close together. I usually do breed them pretty close together. Sometimes they both lift, sometimes they don't. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but hey, glad it worked out. Brenda says, "Sandy, it does get easier with practice, but they are well worth it." Yep, I agree. Oh, is Andy Rabbit here? Did I miss saying hi? Dawn's saying hello to Andy Rabbit. There you are. It says, "Howdy to Verna and Dawn." If I missed if you already commented and I missed it, I'm sorry. Hello. Good to see you. Verna says, "Jacob, that didn't work with a doe I have. Seems that sometimes they need to be in the mood." Yep, I mean sometimes they do for sure. They can be stubborn. Bob Cole says 65 degrees. We'll get to the low 40s tonight. Yeah, it's a little bit chilly still for this time of year. I don't know where you live exactly. I can't remember, but here it was 80, I don't know, 82 today, and that's actually a little bit cooler. It's been like 85, 86 the last couple of days, but getting down, like I said, low 70s, maybe high 60s at night. So it hasn't been terribly bad. Joe says, "Don, the actual killing party doesn't show." Yeah, the actual dispatching part I can't show on YouTube. Andy Rabbit says, "Jacob, I like to breed more than one doe at a time. So if I need to foster babies to another mother." Yeah, that's not a bad practice. I've never actually had to do that. I've always just, had good luck with my does being good mothers. But it's not a bad practice to go ahead and breed both your does at the same time. So like you said, you do have a foster if you need to. Verna says, "Andy, I don't have to breed for 3 months. I have to have buses to freezer camp for the next 3 months." Okay. So you got plenty of meat in the freezer is what you're saying. Blessed with Pets is here, says, "I am a lot of things when it comes to animals, but I'm not a chicken person, LOL. Anyone have any experience banding goat horns?" No, not I. I'm sure somebody can speak to it, but no, I do not. Good to see you, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Buck Reynolds says, "The guy that got 3 fall-offs with his buck, if he breeds his doe tomorrow, he can have a baby today in a roll, or a baby today in a roll." I don't know. You kind of confused me on that. If he breeds his doe tomorrow, he can have baby today in a roll. I don't know what that means exactly. You kind of lost me on that one. Joe Sandy says, "Chris, what is meant by bruised meat, and what does it look like, and why does it matter? Does it taste bad?" Well, I usually discard that part because it's basically just coagulated blood in the necklines, where, it's just kind of it's just kind of nasty looking. So I just discard that. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. It just doesn't look that good. So I just get rid of it. Let's see what. Verna says bruised meat is where the blood clots. Many just don't like it. I just try to take those clots out, but it really doesn't matter in my opinion. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But I do find that, I mean, I switch back and forth. Sometimes I use broomsticks. Sometimes I use the pellet rifle. Both of them, I mean, especially since I got the 22 caliber pellet rifle. When I was using a .177, it didn't seem to do the job nearly as well. It just took a little bit longer for them to expire, and I didn't like that. But the 22 caliber one, it's pretty quick. I mean, it's as humane as I think I can make it. Dawn says, Verna, that is nice to have that much for freezer camp. You will have a lot of meat. Yeah, for sure. And Verna says, need to clean out my freezer. Yeah, me too. I've still got some chicken left over from last year that we haven't eaten. Ryan says, if you have a tiered cage system, are the quails on the lower tiers getting enough light, or are they too shaded? I had mine in a stacking cage system for a while in the garage, and the bottom cage was not getting enough light. I had to put some lights over the top of it to get them to start laying. But yours may be different. It just depends. All I was lighting with was the overhead light that's in the garage. So, basically the top cage was just casting a shadow over the bottom one, so they weren't getting enough light. But it depends on where your light's located and all. It may be plenty. I don't know. You just have to try it out and see. Don says, I see Verna freeze drying a lot of meat. Yeah, I can imagine. And Verna says, I have to cook the meat before I freeze dry. I don't trust rehydration of raw meat. And I'll be making some rabbit sausage too. I've made some rabbit sausage before. It turned out okay. I haven't found a great recipe for it, but it did turn out, it was okay. I mean, it's a lot like chicken sausage. Don says to Joe Sandy, it's been 3 years since I watched them both. I guess I forgot. I remember Terry holding it up to the top of the bucket. When I tried, I didn't lower it into the bucket enough. LOL. Yeah, you need to, if you're going to decapitate them, you need to keep them down low because it's going to go everywhere. You're going to get a mess. Ryan says, garage setup with full spectrum LED light above head. Yeah, you don't need full spectrum lighting, but I mean, if you have it, that's fine. You just don't need it. You don't need to invest in that. But again, you're just going to have to see. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? Your bottom cage is not going to lay eggs. So if you're getting lots of eggs out of the top cage and not getting any or hardly any out of the bottom cage, it's probably light. You probably need to add some light to the bottom cage. Don says, oh, Verna, I know you have to cook it like a big crock pot, huh? In a big crock pot with a question mark. So Ryan says, I haven't started yet. I have all the equipment, just waiting on my hatching eggs to arrive. So, yeah, I mean, see what your lights look like. I mean, if you're seeing light on the bottom, then it's probably fine. But if it's directly overhead and the bottom cage is in the shade, you may need to add some light to that. And I just bought like a cheap, it was like, I think it was listed as a grow light, but it was cheap. It was only about that long. It was fluorescent or LED probably with a tube light in it. And I just set it on top of that cage, plugged it in. It wasn't super bright, but it didn't have to be super bright. So that worked for me. Verna says, I have an Instapot, so yes, I can cook 2 at a time. Yeah, you can't beat a pressure cooker. They're pretty nice for that kind of stuff. David says, got to run. My chick needs help with her chicks. Well, good. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you later, and hopefully that all goes well. Verna says, not in the freezer yet, Chris, but have 3 months of freezer camp to fill it. Oh, gotcha. Bob says, I'm at 7,800 elevation in the mountains of western New Mexico. I think that is. That makes sense. Why it may be a little bit chilly there still yet. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, interesting fun fact. The USDA grades rabbit meat based on several factors. In order to meet the top quality, there must be no bruises nor coagulated blood. Well, that makes sense. They probably rate everything else kind of similarly, don't they? Hog Walker Creek Homestead says, howdy from Travelers Rest That was hard to say for some reason. South Carolina. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Berna says to Ryan, I raised them in a room in my house. I had a lamp come on in the morning and the overhead come on in the late afternoon. Where are we at here? Hogwalker Creek says, I have a quail that looks like a rooster by color pattern. Okay, I'm guessing there's more to that. We'll get to it here in a second if it comes up. Don Skin says hello to everyone from South Mississippi. Good to see you. Buck Reynolds says if you breed a doe today in a roll, she can have a baby one and then again the next day. Oh, I got you. Okay. So what you're saying is if you breed them back to back, because you breed them on 2 different days, that she may have, I mean, whenever she does have the babies, she may have some one day and then some the next day. Well, yeah, and that's not that uncommon. Even if you breed them all on the same day, that kind of happens sometimes anyway. But that's a good point. Okay, there's the next part of this. Hogwaller Creek says the quail has a bad laceration on the back of its neck. So you're thinking it may not be a rooster because of that, maybe? I can't speak to that necessarily. I haven't seen the bird and don't know, but I mean, it's possible. At the back of its neck, I mean, especially if you've got too many roosters in there, usually when there's aggression, the hens start pushing back against the roosters, or you have an aggressive hen or something like that. They go for the face and the eyes, that area. But sometimes, I mean, they'll get them, on the back of the neck is not that unusual. If he seems to be getting along okay, there's really not much you need to do. Probably just, I mean, they'll heal up from some pretty nasty looking wounds and be just fine. If you try to remove him from that group, unless you've got too many roosters, you only need one for every 5 to 6 hens. But if you've got the right rooster ratio, hen to rooster ratio, if you try to remove him to let him heal, for example, well, then he's going to be seen as a new bird. When you try to introduce him back in, he's probably going to get the tar beat out of him. So your best usually just to leave him in there, watch him, make sure it doesn't get any worse, and he'll be okay probably. Joe Sandy says, when I cooked my quail today, I just cooked it in a screaming hot cast iron pan with some oil and butter, salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. Only cooked it to 155. It was not tough at all. Yum. Nice. And I shouldn't say tough necessarily, but kind of dry, on the dry side. But no, adding some fat, oil, and butter, that's gonna definitely help. And you say, I suppose the government wants it to 180. No, thanks. No, that is the one thing. I usually cook to about 165, and I think Verna's saying the same thing. So, Sandy, I only cook to 165 personally. That is the way cook chicken too. Yeah, the threat of getting salmonella from quail is pretty low. So you don't have to overcook it necessarily. 155. When you take it off the heat, it's going to continue to cook. I mean, it's probably going to get up to at least 160 before it stops cooking and cooling down, even though you take it off the heat. So I think you're fine with that. But that sounds pretty good. I like all those ideas, onion powder and garlic powder and all that. That sounds like a good way to do it. Let's see. Hogwaller Creek says, I have 20 hens and 5 roosters. So, it sounds like you're good on that, on the ratios. So like I said, I would just, if it was me, I'd just leave him in there, hope he makes it, watch him pretty close over the next couple of days, make sure it doesn't seem to be getting worse. He doesn't seem to be getting picked on anymore or anything like that. And usually he'll be okay. Verna says you have 1 too many roosters, maybe, but with 20 hens, it's probably okay. If you have to remove him or if you lose him for some reason, you're not at the end of the world, though. You still got enough roosters. Hogwaller Creek says, I removed the one that had the bad cut. It stays crouched down all the time. Not sure if it's really a hen that could be egg bound. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know that. I kind of doubt it. I mean, if it's got the colorations of a rooster, it's probably a rooster. And being crouched down, probably just because it's got injury. If it's still eating and drinking okay, it's probably okay. But now that you've removed it, you're going to have a really hard time putting it back in there without it getting beat up. So that is the hard part with that. But I mean, you just do what you need to do. Lenora says, hey, great video. Can you feed quail with, great video. Hey, great video. Can you feed quail wild lettuce? It started growing randomly in my garden. I'm not sure what you mean by wild lettuce. I'm not real familiar with wild lettuce, but in general, lettuce is not good for your animals, especially iceberg lettuce. That's really the main culprit. But it could cause diarrhea, and animals with diarrhea don't usually last very long. So I would stay away from those kind of light leafy greens, really go with more dark greens if you're going to feed some of that to them. Things like spinach, bok choy, that kind of stuff. But I'm not real familiar with wild lettuce, so I can't speak to that too much. Jacob says, okay, I got you, Buck. I'm breeding them back to back, so I have a good sized litter and no false litters. These will be county fair projects, so I got to be on top of my game for the kids and my profit. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see, who's this? Ephraim, I think it is. Ephraim, yeah, maybe that's right. Ephraim, hopefully I got it right. Says, how many chances do you give a doe having small litters? It kind of depends, honestly, how old they are. Generally about 3. That's my rule. 3 strikes and you're out. So if they have really small litters for 3 litters in a row, then, it's time to look for a replacement probably. Hogwaller says, thank you for the information. You're absolutely welcome. Jacob says, timing on this is crucial. So they make weight and are good rabbits for the kids. Can't wait to see how many I get from my 3 does and if any of them will place at the fair. Well, good luck with that. I don't have any experience showing at a fair, but sounds fun. So hopefully it goes well. Joe Sandy says, because of horrific scalping circumstances and aggression, I only have 1 rooster with 9 hens. I did save an extra rooster and tried to introduce him, but the hens immediately beat him up. Yeah, if you're going to introduce new birds, you've got to do it when they're young. That's really the best way to do it. Or put them all in a brand new environment. And even then, with just 1 bird being introduced to a group of 10, you're still going to have some hard times with that. But anyway, 1 to 9, that's not terrible. You're probably going to suffer a little bit of infertility. So you may only get like 70, 80% of your eggs being fertile, but that's not the end of the world. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, I was wondering if you or any of you other listeners have tried the rabbit breeding routine where you get the same exact genes as the parents after a few generations. The process is on the web. So I'm not the same exact genes as the parents after a few generations. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. The rabbit breeding, is it line breeding? Is that what you're talking about? Like breeding the son back to the mother, the daughter back to the father, that kind of stuff. I've never really done that. I know it's pretty common practice and there's nothing wrong with it, but I've never done that. Joe Sandy says, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll process him and have a low fertility rate, not going through scalping again. Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all. That's kind of what I do with if I have a rooster or a bird that I can't, that they're getting beat up or something like that. I just process them because I don't want them to live a miserable life getting beat up all the time. Lenora says it's wild spinach. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not familiar with wild spinach either, but it's probably okay. Let's see real quick. Let me do a search here and see. Yeah, it looks like okay, so lamb's quarter is the I'll have to look into that a little bit more later. But yeah, you should be able to feed it to them. Don't go overboard. If you're going to be feeding them anything like that, don't go overboard with it. It should be just a treat, a little bit of a side thing. It shouldn't be their main diet. But yeah, you could definitely feed it to them. So Swanson says, my boss just took the chains off me. Greetings from Mississippi Delta. Well, good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Glad you got out of jail. Joe Sandy says, I have the proper ratio of males to females at 6 weeks old. One of the males turned out to be a savage. That's why I only have the 1 rooster. Hey, I get it. I know sometimes your roosters are super aggressive. Most of the time it's the hens if you have an aggressive bird, but sometimes the roosters are too. And I don't tolerate aggression. If I have aggressive birds, I eat them because I just don't want to pass those genes on. Lenora says, thank you so much. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, yes, there is a line breeding schedule where in the end you will wind up with genetics of the original 2 parents. You can continue it indefinitely. Great if you have a beloved pair. Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen it, and it's a good practice. It does work. From everything I've read into and looked into on it, I don't do it. Jan Steffi says, hello, Chris and everyone, from Joe and Jan Steffi. We're looking forward to going to QuailCon again this year. Well, awesome. Hopefully we'll see you there. Jacob Wolf says, I follow the three-strike rule for new does and the same for decreased litter sizes. If they're a new mom and keep messing up, they go to freezer camp. If they're a good mom, then they retire as a pet. Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. I don't like to eat my breeders once they're, retired. I just think it just doesn't feel right, for some reason. So, sorry, I got distracted. So yeah, I do kind of the same things. 3 strikes you're out. If it's a new mom, then yeah, go ahead and freezer camp. Why not? But if it's a proven doe that has produced before and then suddenly starts producing smaller litters over time, then usually I retire her as a pet. I usually give them away to somebody that wants a pet rabbit. JC's Activities says, would you reduce waste if feeding over a sand pit? Maybe. I think I know what you're saying. Like, you're feeding over the sand pit, so the feed that they spill would go into the sand pit and then they would eat it. They probably eat a lot of sand with that, which is not that big of a deal, but you probably don't want them eating a ton of sand. So I don't know that it's a great idea necessarily to put it there. But, I don't know what kind of feeders you're using right now. I use Tupperware style containers, cut holes in the sides of them, and then only fill it up to, about that far below the hole that's in the side of the Tupperware container. And that really reduces the waste quite a bit. It's got a lid on the top of it, so they stick their head through the hole and eat. And that reduces the waste significantly. As long as you don't fill it up too full. If you get it up to all the way up to the level of the holes, well, then they'll just peck at it and they'll spill a lot of it. But if you keep it down just a little bit below, then usually it keeps the waste down significantly. Where are we at on time here? We got about 20 minutes, roughly. Well, 18 actually. And the chat has just slowed down. So we'll make sure everybody's still here, and hopefully I'm not just talking to myself. Let's see. I don't have anything good to talk about this week. I don't have anything planned at all. So we're going to sit here and just be quiet for a minute. Just not talk at all. Hogwaller Creek says, I'm here. Good. Thank you. I always wonder when the chat stops, did the video stop and did I lose a connection or something like that? But not usually. Usually the case is just that everybody's, asked the question. I shouldn't depend on you guys to really do all of that. All of the talking and drive the chat. I should have things planned out to talk about, but I don't. Berna says, I'm doing research on recipes for the next cookbook. Oh, okay, well, I get it. S.S. Swanson says, I see you put a new butcher video. I'll catch it soon. Yeah, it's, I've done it before, so you don't necessarily have to watch it, but yeah, I appreciate it. Processed those 4 rabbits that I had growing out, and thought I would film it, put it up there for everybody to watch. Don says, I'm here too. I was researching wild spinach. LOL. Hey, no problem. It's all good. Andy Rabbit says, I'm still here just unloading rabbit feed. Something has to be done. Blessed with Pets says, we've been deep cleaning the house. Well, that doesn't sound like fun. Scrap 5000 says, Tennessee has passed a no chemtrails law. Really? No chemtrails? How do they prevent that from happening? I got to look that up and read into that a little bit later. Huh. How do they enforce that? What, are they going to pull over the plane? I'm kind of curious about that. Lenora says, what are you growing this season? Ever see about lemon cucumber? I'm not, I think I've heard of them before, but I like to grow, I grow I can't remember what breed of cucumber, what do you call that? A species of cucumber? Anyway, can't remember exactly which cucumber I'm growing this year, but I am growing cucumbers. Pickling cucumbers, what I'm growing. Okra, that's a standard. Tomatoes. We've got some potatoes going. Sweet peas in the green stock. I'm going to show those off probably here in a week or two just to show how well they did. I wondered if it could grow in the green stock, and they're doing pretty good. We got some radishes. We've already been snacking on those. Well, I have. I like them. My wife doesn't care for radish much. We got some summer squash and zucchini we're trying out again this year. We didn't grow that for the last several years because it got so bad with the vine borers and the squash bugs. Couldn't stay on top of it, squash bugs specifically. So we just kind of let it go for a couple of years. But we're going to try again this year and see if maybe taking a couple of years off really made a difference with that. And that's about it so far. I'm looking, I don't know. I don't usually grow corn, but I've got all this space right now, and we're kind of cutting back. We're not doing green beans this year because we did so many last year. We've still got plenty canned. So I don't know. I don't know what else we're going to grow. I mean, I'm open to suggestions. If you guys got ideas, we'll see. TM says, show your quail feeder one day again if you get a chance. Yeah, I should, shouldn't I? I mean, I've done videos on it. No waste quail feeder. You can look back through my channel and find it. But yeah, they're super easy to make. Buck Reynolds says, if you're line breeding, make sure you like both parents, because if you have a bad trait, it will come out in the baby. Yeah, that's a good point. Line breeding does accentuate traits, both good and bad. So make sure that you have plenty of good traits. Rose says, hey, Chris, what is your remedy for slugs in the garden? Slug bait. There is, and I've had problems with that before. But there is, it's called slug bait. I don't know. There's several different brands of it, but that works. And it's organic. I mean, it's still considered organic. It targets slugs specifically. You just have to sprinkle it around. Basically, you have to redo it after it rains, but sprinkle it around your plants, and it does a good job of keeping the slugs down. One of the big issues we have here is, we have slugs, and they become a problem sometimes. I use that. And then we have earwigs. And earwigs usually are not a problem until they get overcrowded. And we've got tons of earwigs. They're everywhere. And then they start eating our plants. But those are pretty easy to take care of, too. A little bit of just a small, kind of shallow dish with some olive oil and some soy sauce in it, and they swarm to it and drown in it. And you just catch them. It's not that hard. Verna says, not now, Chris, but that is what I'm up to, LOL. What was it? What did I miss? Oh, I got you. You're not doing research on your recipes right now, but that's what you're up to doing. Okay, I got you. Well, that makes sense. S.O. Swanson said, that's funny. They can't ticket them, to Scrap 5000 about the chemtrail law. They can't ticket them. I don't know how. That's what I'm saying. How are they going to enforce it? Scrap 5000 says, let's go Rangers. Eastern Conference Finals beat Florida. Is that baseball? I'm guessing baseball, maybe basketball. I don't know. I'm not really a big sports guy. I watch NFL. Specifically, I'm a Chiefs fan. But I'm not really big on other sports, so I don't keep up with them. Hogwaller Creek says, let's see, I found some quail feeders on Etsy that are 3D printed. They seem to work very well. Yeah, there's probably nothing wrong with that. I go buy the cheapest Tupperware style containers I can get that are fairly deep and preferably longer, and I just cut holes in the sides of them, and that's what I use. But no reason you can't use those. Jacob Wolf says, Chris, do you know you're going to talk, or do you know what you're going to talk about when you speak at QuailCon yet? No, I don't. I probably should come up with a topic if one's not assigned to me, but no, I don't have anything to talk about. I don't know. I don't know yet. We'll figure something out. Hogwaller says, it's made by Bell Engineering on Etsy. Okay, I'll have to look those up. Let's see. There's Bell Engineering's Etsy store. Oh, yeah, those look pretty decent. $38, though. Wow. Well, they got to make their money off of them. I get it. But. Huh. Yeah, they look all right. Blessed with Pets says, all that's left in my room, all that's left is my room, and I worked my butt off because my mom swore if I helped her, she'd help me with my room, and she now decided that she's too tired to clean anymore, so now I'm cleaning alone. That happens when you get older. Trust me, don't be too hard on your mom, but Verna says, I planted some radishes. My tomatoes and peppers have flowers. Oh, I forgot the peppers. Yeah, we got jalapeno, poblano, habanero. I think that's it on the peppers I'm growing. And Hogwaller says it's called okra here in Appalachia. Well, you guys are wrong. But I'm just kidding. Call it whatever you want to call it. TM says, I like growing okra. It does good when it gets hot. Yeah, it does. And pickled okra is just, it's so good. I like pickled okra a lot. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, they will enforce the no chemtrails rule with Stinger missiles. Yeah, that'd be something, wouldn't it? That'd catch the news. Joe Sandy says, I grow these little cucumbers called cucamelon. I've seen those before. It says they look exactly like a tiny watermelon, but taste like a cucumber. My granddaughter will love them. Yeah, those are interesting. I see all these. I think that may have been a Baker Creek thing I saw, and I can't remember. But Baker Creek always has these kind of novelty things like the techno, whatever they're called, the techno tomatoes, the little cherry tomatoes that had the vibrant color. I've tried to grow them. They're just usually not that tasty to me, but it is kind of a cool thing to grow every once in a while. Lenora says, a great selection of vegetables. I trying snow peas and broccoli sprouts. I should try that. I don't have good luck with brassicas here usually. It just gets too hot too quick, and they usually don't do well. Sundial Fragrances, good to see you, says, hey, Chris and y'all, and all y'all, I think it is. But Don says, I grow leaf lettuce, Swiss chard, kale, and collards in my hydroponic greenhouse. Every night I give my breeding stock rabbits a generous portion. They love it. No digestive issues. Well, that's good. Yeah, if you give them a little bit and they're used to eating it, yeah, you should be fine. You just don't want to switch them over drastically to a new diet. But yeah, that sounds like my wife really doesn't care for, I don't like kale at all myself, and she doesn't care for Swiss chard or collards really that much. We do grow some leaf lettuce every once in a while, mostly so we can do like wilted lettuce. If you've never had wilted lettuce salad, oh, it's good. But we don't do it often. So Swanson says to Scrap 5000, Tennessee has no missiles. We don't officially even have a military base. Interesting. Joe Sandy says they're also known as Mexican sour gherkins. Interesting. I've seen those before, but I haven't actually tried them out. So, and then Verna's placed a link to an Amazon link for slug bait. There you go. I usually buy it at the local, garden stores or whatever, but yeah, I mean, Amazon, I'm sure, carries it. Blessed with Pets says, I've been caught up worrying about showing rabbits. Oh, no. Hang on. I've been caught up worrying about showing rabbits. I finally decided to just have fun with the hobby and all the colors and stop selling my beloved rabbits just because they don't have perfect body types. So there's nothing wrong with that. Hopefully that's going well for you. Joe Sandy says, is QuailCon sold out yet? I don't think so. Hog Waller says, I said the same thing when I see the $38. What? Oh, the $38 about it being a little pricey. Yeah. I mean, I use like a $1 feed, Tupperware style. I mean, I get the cheapest ones, and they work just fine. Verna says, not yet, Sandy, but you better get those camping tickets soon. Verna says, fresh okra, no bigger than 4 inches, is great fresh out of the garden. Yeah, it is. I like it that way too. And even dehydrated. I've sliced it up and seasoned it and dehydrated it, and it's really good that way too. Blessed with Pets, has anybody tried out self-wash pet wash at Tractor Supply? I was amazed when I saw that my TSC had one. I'm taking my Shih Tzu and 3 Pyrenees tomorrow, LOL. Beats doing it outside with the hose. Yeah, I always feel sorry for dogs that have to get, I mean, that's got to be cold, right? My dog, when we give him a bath, he's in we put him in the bathtub with the, we got a handheld spray thing that we spray him off with. Always make sure the water's kind of body temperature. He doesn't necessarily like it, but he doesn't hate it. He does pretty good with it. And he really likes after the bath. He likes being cleaned. But no, I've never tried one of those. We do have a car wash that has one, actually. Dog wash there, but I have not tried it. Joe Sandy says, I didn't get my snap peas planted in time. Now I'll probably have to wait until fall. Yeah, I like them much better in the spring than I do the fall. Ours are they're just now starting to flower. It may be a little late. They may not be super sweet. But they're doing well. And I didn't have to trellis them because they're up off they don't need it just worked out pretty well with the green stalks. So I'll have to show that in video. Scrap 5000 says, anyone pickle cucumbers? Great half sour recipe can be found on the Bon Appetit channel. Look for Brad makes crunchy half sour pickles. It's alive. Bon Appetit, huh? I do pickle cucumbers, yes. I don't know about the half sour recipe. I may have to check it out. Steve says, going to pick up geese and rabbits this weekend. What is good to feed geese? I don't know. I've never raised geese. I'm not sure what you would need to get to feed them, but somebody might be able to answer it for us. Joe Sandy says, I would love to go, but I don't know my babysitting schedule yet. That always makes it tricky, doesn't it? Hogwaller says, y'all have a good holiday weekend. Thanks, you too. It's our anniversary, my wife and I's anniversary on Monday. 7 years we've been married, but we don't do a huge deal for our anniversary, but still, we get a 3-day weekend this year for it. Joe says duck/goose pellets. That makes sense. Lenora says ductor poles, bird feed from Chewy for geese. Isn't that expensive? I'm guessing that's pretty high dollar, but I don't know. And Joe Sandy says, I have 2 ducks. They eat the same as the geese. And Hogwaller said, happy anniversary. Thank you. And Lenora, congratulations on your anniversary. Thank you. I appreciate it. My wife's great. So it's been, we thought we were married 7 years already, but then we did the math. We're like, no, this will be 7 years. So it's kind of like, there's a comedian, Gallagher, I think, said, do married people live longer, or does it just seem like longer? That's what I teased her with, and I don't know. She didn't think it was as funny as I did. But Joe Sandy says, congrats to you and Mrs. Redneck. Thank you. Dave says, bread and butter pickle is also good, and thanks for sharing. Well, you're absolutely welcome. I do like some bread and butter pickles every once in a while, but I'm not much on sweet pickles. Usually really just kind of like good old-fashioned dill. Verna says, blessed anniversary. Thank you. Appreciate it. And we're wrapping up, aren't we? We got about 3 minutes left, but the chat's really died down, so we may go ahead and just end this one just a couple of minutes early tonight. Go spend time with my wife. Get an extra 3 minutes in there. By the time I say goodbye anyway, because, I'm from Missouri, you don't say goodbye, gone. It takes you a minute to say goodbye. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. I do appreciate it. Like I said, I think we're just going to wrap this one up. We've got Sundial Fragrance saying congratulations, blessed anniversary. Thank you. And anyway, should be back next Thursday. Don't see any reason why I won't. And sorry, getting distracted by comments again. Anyway, I don't see any reason why I won't be here next Thursday. Hopefully everybody has a great weekend, gets a 3-day weekend. I do. My wife does too, so we're looking forward to it. And we'll see you guys next week. So thanks again, and as always, God bless.